Merħba l-intrapriża ta' din il-ġimgħa. Ħafna drabi nitkellmu dwar l-investiment dirett barrani u nitkellmu dwar kumpaniji li jiġi investu f'Malta. Se nidħol għand waħda minnhom Trustemp li ilha Malta inqas minn sentejn u ġiet Malta wara Brexit. Mia, Josh Allen. Josh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having us.
I'm itching to learn why you've decided to move to Malta some 2 years ago or so.
Wow, well, so Trustemp, we ended up coming to Malta as a company mainly because of Brexit.
Wow.
So we had offices in Atlanta and we had opened an office in the UK, interested in expanding into Europe, and we were going to do that from the UK mainly because of English. Well, so Brexit causes a crisis, and we have to sort of figure out, well, how are we going to do business in the EU? Nobody knew how it was going to work. Our CEO, Gareth Jenner, was present at an event that some Malta Enterprise people were at. He meets them and sort of by accident ends up here in Malta, and we absolutely loved it.
But what are you doing exactly here? Because I know you're using AI, artificial intelligence, to try to validate, authenticate identification.
Yes, so what Trustemp does is we are a privacy-first biometric identity company.
Okay.
So what we do is we take biometric identity, like a
Facial
selfie, a face
recognition.
scan,
Sure.
we turn it into a token. It's like a one-way transformation where the information is now safe. It could never be used, it can never be, a person who received the token could never use it in any way other than the way it was intended. So we take those facial biometrics,
Okay.
and we change them into a token so that if somebody were to get a hold of them in a data breach or some other sort of event, no one could ever use them for criminal purposes.
Okay.
So that's different than every other biometric company that's out there. Every other biometric company out there are using pure templates. They're using your actual facial scans,
Okay.
right? Whereas we turn it into this token, can never be used, but it could be matched.
L-intelligenza artifiċjali llum il-ġurnata kif beda jispjeganna aktar qabel Josh wieħed jista' jivverifika l-identità tiegħu billi ikollu il-fattizzi tiegħu. Il-mobile npoġġuh qudiemna u minnu fih jivverifika l-identità tagħna. Imma hemmhekk jista' jkun hemm problemi relatati mas-sigurtà. X'jista' jkun hemm min li jkollu intenzjonijiet malizzjużi li juża mezzi oħrajn fosthom anke ritratti u juża l-identità tagħna minn fuq ritratti u nkella mezzi oħrajn. Imma għandna riċerkatur Malti li dan qed jipprova jeliminaħ. Lu qed ngħid tajjeb li qed tipprova toħloq soluzzjoni li telimina din il-possibilità din
Eżatt, jien qed naħdem fuq teknoloġija li tissemma facial anti-spoofing li lan u biex distinguixxi bej uċuħ vera u uċuħ fraudulent, iġifiri ritratt ta' ritratt, iġifiri ritratt ta' wiċċ li huwa jew fuq biċċa karta jew fuq xi monitor, iġifiri l-persuna mhux qiegħed hemm dak il-ħin. U di hija teknoloġija importanti għax kif it-teknoloġija tal-biometrics issir iktar avvanzata, inti fil-futur tista' pereżempju taċċessa l-kont tal-bank b'wiċċek, iġifiri facial identification. Iżda jekk jien għandi ritratt ta' wiċċek u m'hemmx dit teknoloġija ta' facial anti-spoofing u nuri pereżempju ir-ritratt ta' wiċċek fuq biċċa karta, jien nista' naċċessa il-kont tal-bank tiegħek.
Jiġifieri jiena luk bħalissa nista' naqbad ritratt tiegħek u nista' naċċessa xi kontijiet jekk inti tippermettili li nkun nista' nagħmel facial recognition, jekk għandek xi kontijiet li taċċesshom bil-facial recognition, jien nistgħu nuża ritratt tiegħek u dik is-sistema taħseb li nkun inti.
Eżatt, jekk m'hemmx di t-teknoloġija ta' facial anti-spoofing li tiddistingwixxi bejn wiċċ vera u wiċċ fals. U hawnhekk nista' nurik eżempju tas-sistema taħdem. Issa hawnhekk għandi l-kaxxa ħadra u għandek it-tabella live face. Jiġifieri di qed timmarka li l-wiċċ tiegħi huwa wiċċ veru bħalissa. Malli nippreżentalu il-wiċċ tiegħi l-istess wiċċ imma fuq karta il-kaxxa ssir ħamra għax huwa attakk u qed jgħidlek facial attack. Jiġifieri kieku dis-sistema ma tkunx qed taħdem jien b'dil karta nkun nista' naċċessa kwalunkwe affarijiet li huma proteġuti bil-facial biometrics.
Bil-facial biometrics. Iġifieri din sissa di soluzzjoni internazzjonalment fid-dinja ma teżistix u qed tiżviluppa inti.
Hemm element ta' riċerka, trial and error, ċertu affarijiet ma jaħdmux, ċertu affarijiet jaħdmu mbagħad meta tpoġġihom fil-prodott induna li hemm ċertu affarijiet, pereżempju kundazzjonijiet differenti tad-dawl. Nies jieħdu ritratti b'mobiles antiki, ġifieri l-kwalità ma tkunx daqshekk tajba. Li mbagħad jirrikjedu li tmur lura u terġa' tiżviluppa soluzzjonijiet iktar robusti.
We have a number of different kinds of clients, large Fortune 500 companies, a couple of large banks in the United States. One of our first customers was a Fortune 500 bank in the US. We worked with them for almost all of 2018. And then another huge client, MasterCard, the credit card provider, came on board with us. And as we've grown, we have expanded into retail clients. We've expanded into other financial service clients. And then the government. That's a huge market for us.
Maybe you can tell me what these employees are doing. I'm seeing most of them are Maltese.
Yes.
So first and foremost, how many employees have you got at the moment?
We have about 25 here in Malta,
good.
the majority of them Maltese. We have an R&D or research team filled with PhDs here, plus developers who came on board with us, most of whom came right out of college in a program that we did for junior developers, and almost all of them have stayed with us. In fact, all three of these here that you can see were junior developers with us, went through our developer program, and have stayed on full-time with us in their second year of employment with us. Very, very happy with the program. It's interesting. We were told when we came to Malta, they were like, you're gonna really like it here, but you might not find the people that you need in the country to do the work you want them to do. And I gotta tell you, we have found that to be completely false. We have found fantastic people here in Malta. What we found is you have fantastic people studying at the university, learning how to do AI development, all these other things, and they leave the country because there's no companies here to employ them.
Similar to yours.
The companies are here, they like to stay, and we like to have them.
That's really great to hear. It's very good news. So this is the research and development department, I guess.
Yes.
So you do have another office.
We have
maybe?
several of other offices.
Sure,
yes.
so we can head into the other
Okay,
one.
great.
So this is the other office. Josh, what are you doing here exactly?
This was our original office, actually. When we
Okay.
first moved into this building, our CEO signed for this office before he had ever come to see it, because we needed a space. Now over here we have a lot of our corporate functions. So we have our accounting, our controllers here, our CFO is here, our CTO, our Chief Technology Officer, and our group CEO, Gareth Jenner, is also in this part of the office. And again, it's our oldest bit. It's fuller than the rest of it. But this is where a lot of the important work that deals with us being listed on NASDAQ and being a public company takes place.
Those are milestone, momentous, recent developments, right, in your company's journey.
Yeah, absolutely. We listed on NASDAQ only not even a month ago now.
That's really great. And what's fascinating about your company is that you started some 5-6 years ago in 2016.
Yep.
So how it came about maybe, and how you moved into becoming an international
What's interesting, the company first began as an idea of how to do transactions that involve exchanging goods in person without knowing the person you're trusting. So for instance, on Craigslist or some other online buying service, you go and you buy a computer or a car or something from somebody, and you're gonna go meet them and you're gonna give them money. But are they who they say they are? Do they own the goods they say they own? In 2021, we list on Euronext and then on OTC markets, and now 2022 we're listed on NASDAQ. I mean, it's a pretty meteoric sort of rise for a company. It's a very exciting story.
Yeah, for all startups, even startups in Malta, it's a fascinating story, definitely.
Yeah, it was Malta was a critical part of it, absolutely critical part of it, because
Why you would say so?
Well, so coming to Malta was not only did it help us with the Brexit issue, but Malta also helped us with funding, with finding space, with finding good employees. kind of bringing in and attracting companies like that. And then they have been incredibly helpful. We have found Malta's introduced us to so many different people. We have opened up a subsidiary in Rwanda, which currently has about 15 employees. And that whole thing came about because ministers in Malta introduced us to the right people and encouraged us to go. And so, all right, we're listening to this. We say, well, we'll make the introductions. We're going to help you along the way. And what have we done? We've now opened an office in Rwanda.
So Malta is basically a gateway to Europe and Africa.
Well,
literally speaking.
That's what Malta is, right? It is a gateway to Europe and to Africa, and we're sitting right in the middle of it. It's very convenient to both. And we found them to be very helpful in this regard. It's not just there, they're helping us other places too, but Malta has been very loyal to us, and we're very loyal to Malta.
So is it a long-term relationship with Malta?
Well, so far it hasn't been, but we certainly hope it's going to be, right?
So,
yeah,
mentioning long-term relationships, I know that you're working on new initiatives in another part of your offices here in Slima. So,
let's go take a look.
Sure.
Yeah.
So here we are. This is the third office space in less than a year.
Yes. So here is a team working on new projects. Most of the team downstairs, and even in other places in the world, are working on projects for current customers that have actually paid for things, they're ready to go. Skunkworks, which is the team that's up on this level, works on new initiatives. And so when we have ideas of how to apply the IT2 in a new and unusual way, but we don't necessarily have customers for it yet. I mean, obviously, any company, you have to have the current thing you're selling, plus you got to be working on the next thing you're going to sell, or else you find you're out of business pretty quickly. So that's what we do up here. One of the things that we're working on up here is projects for the metaverse. You know, this whole idea of the virtual world that we think people are going to do business in the future. And so working on how we can have a layer of identity in the metaverse is going to be a really important thing, because people will want to transact. They're going to want to buy things. They're going to sell things. They're going to own things. Like, people own digital property in the metaverse, right? So to verify those identities while allowing people to continue to use avatars and multiple personalities, but to have a real identity attached to real financial assets and real information for governments on knowing their customer, knowing who is fraudulent, who's not, who might be on a watch list. All of those kind of things are problems for the metaverse. That's what this team up here is working on, among other things, but that's one of the big things they're working on here.
If I may ask you, Josh, because I have to, there's all this talk about digital transformation.
Yeah.
How do you keep up with all the digital changes which we're all witnessing?
I actually don't think you can. I mean, there's so many changes going on.
But you're right into it, and you're right in the thick of it.
The important thing for us is to focus on the bit that we can handle, right? Which is identities, right? There's so many changes going on, but we know one thing
That's possibly the most critical part.
Human beings have to trust each other if they're going to do business. I mean, I have to trust you. I have to know who you are. What we're trying to do is replace the way our grandparents used to do business, right? I mean, they would go down the street and they'd buy something from the local store. They didn't even use cash. They had an account, right? Because the vendor knew your grandparents. They knew each other, so they could trust each other. Well, when we introduce the digital world, we lose all that trust. And in order for us to move forward, especially in the rapidly evolving digital sphere, we have to be able to regain that trust. And that's what our mission is. Right? That's what our mission is in all of the different varieties that it comes about. So we're constantly looking for new ways to do that as new technologies come up, like the metaverse.
That's amazing. Josh, thank you so much for having us. That was absolutely fascinating to hear about your company, how you're growing so fast, but keeping this rapidly changing scenario around you and being abreast of all these changes. So that's
well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Josh. Min din il-kumpanija fil-qasam ta' teknoloġija tal-informatika l-aktar fl-intelligenza artifiċjali se morru l-belt. Il-Kamra tal-Kummerċ, l-Intrapriża u l-Industrija. Nitkellmu dwar din l-industrija u anka setturi oħrajn ekonomiċi li qed jikbru fil-Gżejjer Maltin, imma anka dwar attività partikolari li l-Kamra tal-Kummerċ se torganizza fis-7 ta' Marzu li ġej.
Fis-7 ta' Marzu hija lejliet Jum il-Mara u allura li ħanamlu hija se jkollna panel ta' nies li jiddiskutu id-diversità xi tfisser. Ġifieri flok qegħdin dejjem niffukaw fuq l-irwol tan-nisa biss u nifqu hemm u qisna ninsew għal sena ta' wara, qed ngħidu l-irwol tal-mara kif tista' tibbenefika fejn jidħlu anke diversità meta taħdem ma' irġiel ma' persuni li jkunu ta' orjentazzjonijiet anke sesswali differenti. Ġifieri għaliex hija importanti li l-mara natuha iktar l-irwol l-irwol li dak li jixraqilha bażikament. U wkoll qed nenfasizzaw l-ixju ta' women that can lead. Ġifieri l-idea illi anke bħala Kamra tal-Kummerċ nixtiequ illi n-nisa jkunu iktar proattivi fejn jidħlu riski f'negozji, f'riċerka, digitalization, ġifieri naqbdu diversi branki fil-faxxa tal-industrija u nixtiequ li n-nisa jkunu iktar avventurużi fejn jidħol il-parteċipazzjoni tagħhom. Din l-attività se tkun qed issir ukoll l-Intercontinental illi tawna support ukoll u l-Atlas Insurance u magħhom se nkunu qegħdin diskutu dan kollu. Se jkollna bħala guest speaker il-Dr. Anna Borch illi se tkun qed tagħti preżentazzjoni minn studju illi anke hi għadha kemm għamlet u mbagħad niftuha għad-diskussjoni.
Il-kors McGill huwa parti mill-impenn ta' Malta Enterprise sabiex toħloq ekosistema kompleta fis-settur tal-kannabis mediku. Il-kors huwa frott ta' ħidma li bdiet kważi sentejn ilu ma' McGill University meta ġie iffirmat Memorandum of Understanding bejnietna u McGill University sabiex inkunu nistgħu nipprovdu anke edukazzjoni f'dan is-settur. McGill University hija Università Kanadiża li tirrenkja fost l-aqwa universitajiet fix-xena internazzjonali. Il-kontenut tal-kors huwa wieħed tekniku u jkopri varji aspetti fis-settur tal-kannabis għal skopijiet mediċi. Dawn l-aspetti jvarjaw minn proċessi industrijali, ir-riċerka li qiegħda ssir f'dan il-qasam u anke l-użu tal-kannabis għal indikazzjonijiet mediċi. Jiena nħeġġeġ lil kull min għandu interess li jitgħallem aktar fuq dan is-settur jew anke li jaħdem f'dan il-qasam biex jieħu din l-opportunità u jattendi dan il-kors. Ta' min ukoll wieħed iżid li dan il-kors huwa eligibbli għal Get Qualified Scheme li tħaddan Malta Enterprise fejn parti sostanzjali mill-prezz tal-kors jiġi reimbursed.